Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today and sharing my story, my family's story, and what I do as part of the UT Health San Antonio family. Forgive me, I have a few notes because 6 minutes for a faculty member is very challenging, and this is to keep me on track because I don't think that Dr. Henrich has his hook, right? I know. Okay. So here I go. Okay. So as you heard, I have been doing substance use and addiction research for a long time. But this past year has been a pretty humbling one for me. And it came from a rather unexpected source because I had the opportunity to do a TED Talk at TEDx San Antonio, which I thought would be a piece of cake, and it wasn't. And if you're interested in that, it's a longer story about what I do. And you can Google it, and then you can find out why I was in Playboy. And it was an article. But seriously, it was, that's the only joke in my talk. but seriously, the whole experience really forced me to think about something that I'd never really taken the time to think about, but actually turned out to be pretty important, which is why I was drawn to substance use disorders research, because I didn't really choose it. I thought I fell into it, but it turns out I probably did pretty intentionally choose it. So just a little bit of context, and I won't bore you with the statistics, and if you turn on the news these days, I'm sure you know a lot more than I thought anyone in this country would ever know about opioid use disorder. It's the leading cause of accidental death right now. In 2016 and in 2017, over 42,000 people died each year. That exceeds motor vehicle accidents. It exceeds death from firearms. And in fact, life expectancy for white men is declining. And we are pretty sure that that's in part because of the deaths we're seeing from opioid use disorder as well as alcohol in this country. That's pretty startling. It's unheard of, and I personally find that unacceptable. So the hard part for me, as someone who knows about treating substance use disorder and opioid use disorder, is that unlike many other diseases that probably interest you, is that this is very treatable. We know what to do. And I just find that unacceptable for a lot of reasons. But one of them is that we have 3 FDA-approved medications to treat opioid use disorder. They're clinically proven to save lives, and if people are treated with them, we see a 50% reduction in death associated with opioid use disorder, or OUD. And those medications, in case you haven't heard of them, are buprenorphine, naltrexone, and methadone. So that leads us to why we can't help with the opioid crisis, because we can. What's happening today in the United States, from my viewpoint, is one of the greatest public health failures of our generation. And the problem is that we have failed to get the access that we need to treatment to the people who need it. And that's partly because our healthcare community doesn't have enough individuals available to treat opioid use disorder, and that many of the individuals who need that treatment can't afford it. But my personal connection to addiction and opioid use disorder is because of the third barrier that I talk a lot about, and that's stigma. So when we think about stigma, it's because one of the reasons that I would argue people don't get treatment is because when somebody has an opioid use disorder, the first thing that happens isn't where will we find the best treatment. The first thing that happens is often deafening silence, and that person finds themselves alone, struggling because no one knows what to do. And that to me is unacceptable as someone who has addiction in their family. And so when we think about it, we have to understand how we're going to bring this out of the darkness. And for me, that's what I do. So this year, I spent a lot of time trying to understand what it was about addiction that I was going to do. And I met someone named Deb de la Garza, and she's given me permission to share her name. I met her because she asked me to join her at International Overdose Awareness Day. And again, remember, I've been working in the field of addiction for almost 20 years, and I went to this talk. I do talks all the time. And I went down there to this day, and I met all of these families, and all of these parents, and all of these beautiful families that had lost a child to a preventable disease. And I gave my talk, and then I ran. I fled. Because suddenly I was meeting people in the community, and I had to look them in the face and realize that I had not confronted the only issue in my family. It was very easy for me to do this from behind a desk. It was very hard for me to do this in an authentic way, integrated with my personal family story. So I made a decision this year, and that's why I do talks like this, and that's why I do talks like the TEDx talk that I did. That when I do work in my research part of my career, I only do things that I know make impact. And for me, the impact that I work on today is about making sure that when I agree to do a project, that project is going to impact a family member or a child's life. That I do work that I know will improve access for someone in San Antonio to evidence-based, high-quality care. That I do work that ensures that we are moving towards treatment on demand. And for me, treatment on demand means that when someone needs help, that help, even if the decision to seek help is at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning when they are entirely alone, they know that somewhere in our city, they can make a phone call and get the high-quality, evidence-based, science-rooted treatment that will help save their life and improve their lives, because treatment is a beautiful thing, and every life is worth saving. Thank you.